So for those of you that don't know Ashden, we've been running awards for climate innovators for 20 years. And for the last 3 years, we've been running a programme with UK towns and cities on their climate action plans. And this morning, we're going to be sharing learning from our Retrofit workshops and hearing from 3 great speakers. Our first speaker, Andrew Philby, works in the southwest of Scotland rather than the southwest of England. The reason we wanted to hear from him is that Scotland has been several years ahead of England in delivering area-based retrofit schemes. In fact, Andrew's employer, the Energy Agency, won an Ashden Award for their work in 2008. Our second speaker is Soren Nellegard from Retrofit Works, and he'll share the lessons of their base supply chain demonstrator project. And our final speaker is Jo Wheeler from UK Green Building Council, and she'll be talking about the UK GBC's Retrofit Playbook, which is a really useful resource for local authorities. So first, though, I'm going to give a short summary of the 8.5 hours that we spent talking with local authorities in the Southwest in April and May this year. So domestic homes make up for between a quarter and a third of emissions for most councils. So action is essential to hit net zero. And it was great to get local authorities along to 3 workshops to showcase best practice, learn from each other. We ran the workshops in partnership with UK GBC, and each workshop had around 30 attendees made of representatives of local authorities, Southwest Energy Hub and Ashden winners. Yeah, I'd like to say particular thanks to the MCS Charitable Foundation for funding that work, and they were able to attend some of the sessions as well, which was great. So just bear with me. So our starting point was to ask where councils are at now with their retrofit plans. And for several years, the only government policy and funding has been the eco schemes. And most councils are running eco projects, some with some very good affordable warmth referral networks. Often, due to the limitations of eco funding, single measures to improve homes have been taken rather than a whole house approach. In the last 2 years, there's been a big change. We've had climate emergency declarations, COVID, of course, the government's green recovery plans, and we've got the local authority delivery scheme, which is funding retrofit for people on low incomes, living in homes with poor energy efficiency. We've got the social housing decarbonisation fund, and the green homes voucher came and went for the able to pay sector. Most of the councils participating in our workshops did not have a retrofit strategy, and this has made it harder to get bids together for the LADs and social housing schemes. But many local authorities have been successful in their applications, often in partnership with each other, and a lot of work is now underway across the different councils. Whilst the LADs work is dominating the agenda for many councils, some are thinking about the able to pay sector as well, though with the frustrations of a lack of government policy. So our first workshop considered setting up a retrofit strategy. As councils put their LADs bids together starting late last year, it became clear where the gaps were. A lack of knowledge of the housing stock, 10 years age of buildings, EPC ratings and planned renovation works. Limited officer capacity and experience to put bids in. A lack of supply chain locally to deliver the work. And as I mentioned, no funding or policy for the able to pay sector, and that creates real challenges in delivering area-based approaches that cover all tenures. So what should councils do? Firstly, be prepared. Analyse your housing stock now so that when short-term funding is available, you can move quickly. And there are lots of tools to help you do that. At the workshop, we heard from Ashden Winner Parity Projects on their Pathways tool, which is shown in the top right-hand picture in the slide. And then access the great resources that are being developed. And we're going to hear about UK GBC's Retrofit Playbook a bit later. Thirdly, the importance of regional working and partnerships with housing associations, community groups, local LEPs, FE colleges are going to be really important, and I'll say a little bit more about that shortly. So our second workshop looked at the supply and demand for retrofit, and the immediate challenge for most of our local authorities is the supply chain rather than creating demand, but mostly because the LAD schemes are already doing that. Quality of the work is really important, but there are just 3 installation firms accredited to the latest PAS standards in the southwest of England as of May. There may be more now, so that if government funded schemes require the latest standards, it's then challenging to meet the timescales. There's a lack of retrofit coordinators. The map on the slide there just shows where retrofit coordinators are distributed, and you can see the southwest has a fairly low representation. That is changing because there's a lot of retrofit training going on as we speak. And these skill shortages can result in compromises, with some schemes specifying single measures rather than whole house. And the tight deadlines on the local authority schemes just don't allow enough time for training, particularly apprenticeships. And in terms of the able to pay sector, the construction sector is incredibly busy right now, and many builders just lack the knowledge and interest to get involved in retrofit training right now. But there are some good initiatives out there. So at the workshop we heard from Futureproof in the southwest, who have trained nearly 100 builders, and Carbon Co-op in Manchester are undertaking similar work. Bath and North East Somerset Council are providing retrofit training for the home improvement agency staff, who already deliver some home improvements to vulnerable residents. And again in Bath, new technologies such as the Qbot insulation robot, another Ashden winner, are being used. Many local authority officers are now getting retrofit coordinator training. And procurement teams are becoming more aware of using contracts to deliver social value, as we heard about in the LCOR session we ran on Monday. So on green procurement. And there's some signs that the next tranche of funding from government, the HUGS fund, Home Upgrade Grant, may have longer timescales. And councils are beginning to think about regional skills training, working with FE colleges and LEPs. And it is possible. Other parts of the UK are showing that it is possible. At the second workshop, we heard from Warmworks, another great Scottish organisation who've been delivering the Scottish Government's affordable warmth scheme since 2015, which is a great exemplar of what a good retrofit programme could look like in England. The Scottish Government procurement process established a 5-year contract with Warmworks with a 16-point employment and skills plan, including targets on jobs, skills and placements. And the plan so far has seen the creation of 140 apprenticeships, 600 jobs, 2,500 training opportunities. And they've recently launched Warm Start, which is a programme to attract and retain young people into the retrofit sector. So could regional retrofit delivery organisations achieve something similar in England? London have recently launched their innovation partnership, bringing together social housing providers and installers, and Greater Manchester and West Midlands are launching regional retrofit programmes too, but they need national support. We'll come on to a little bit more on that in a moment. So in terms of our third workshop, covered finance and how to finance retrofit. And there are some real challenges there. Lack of flexibility for funding. Councils should be able to blend funding pots more readily, such as ECO and LADS. And as mentioned, the timescales are simply too short. There's no funding for the able to pay. And there was a general agreement from participants on the workshops that financial incentives, even if they're quite small, are important. And there's limited funding for council officer time, though actually the South West Energy Hub is providing some funding through their LADS 2 work. Despite all these challenges, there is some exciting work going on. We heard from Otley Energy, who are working with Leeds City Council on area-based approaches, which allow for the optimisation of design and economies of scale. And they pointed out that housing associations can buy heat pumps at half the price paid by a private buyer. And in Leeds, retrofit programmes have been combined with community regeneration and community marketing, going door to door to encourage demand. We also heard from Lendology, who I think are on the call this morning, which is a community interest company based in the Southwest, who are already lending for some home improvement work, including retrofit. In terms of accessing funding, regional or city scale is best to leverage economies of scale. But we do need national support from the new infrastructure bank or from a net zero development bank. So I wanted to finish by saying a few words about national policy. As is clear from what I've covered previously, it will be tough for local authorities to achieve their retrofit aims without more supportive long-term policy. And Ashden are part of a coalition of local government organisations, NGOs and research institutions who've recently published a blueprint for accelerating climate action at the local level. And we're currently holding a series of workshops with government. We held one recently with MHCLG on retrofit, where we made the points very clearly about the long-term funding certainty for local authority delivery and the importance of incentives for the able to pay sector. And just to say, finally, as with our other two regional learning hubs, a big part of our work is sharing the insights that we're getting during these workshops with a wider audience, and we're doing that through our Learning Out Loud platform, which allows you to access video recordings of presentations, blogs and other output, which will allow you to explore what we've been covering today and what we'll cover in a bit more detail.